Let's jump right in, because today we're looking at a medical breakthrough that is literally reshaping human biology as we know it. Welcome to this explainer, where we're unpacking the hard science behind the GLP-1 revolution. You know the names, right? Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy. But today, we're cutting through all those celebrity headlines to see exactly how these medications are hacking our bodies. This isn't just another passing health fad. No, we're talking about a fundamental shift in how we understand and treat the human body itself.
Okay, let's dive into this because framing this conversation correctly from the start is absolutely critical. For years, the media has treated these medications like, some controversial Hollywood diet trend. But if we look at the actual science, we need to ask a much, much bigger question. Do we finally have a genuine medical cure for obesity? To figure that out, we first need to wrap our heads around the true scale of the problem we're actually trying to solve here.
1 billion. Over 1 billion people across the globe currently suffer from obesity. That is a staggering number. This isn't some niche issue. It is frankly one of the most widespread chronic diseases of our entire era. And yet, despite how incredibly common it is, it kind of remains this quiet global epidemic. It's largely unsolved, and it is massively underfunded when it comes to developing real, effective medical treatments.
And honestly, the consequences of leaving it unsolved are absolutely devastating. Every single year, obesity-related complications kill almost 4 million people. Think about that. 4 million lives cut short because of the downstream effects of this condition. When we talk about obesity, we aren't talking about aesthetics or, fitting into a certain clothing size. We are talking about a deadly systemic health crisis that demands a serious medical response. But before we go any further, we really have to reset how we define this word entirely. Society has built up so much shame and stigma around weight, treating it like it's a personal failure or just a lack of willpower. But medically speaking, obesity is strictly a biological state indicating an unhealthy amount of body fat. That's it. It doesn't judge how you look, and it certainly doesn't measure your character.
So how did a billion of us end up in this biological state? Well, we basically fell into an evolutionary trap. See, for almost all of human history, food was extremely scarce. Our ancient biology hardwired us to crave sugar and fat. So when our ancestors stumbled upon a calorie bomb, binging on it wasn't gluttony. It was literally a crucial survival mechanism. But almost overnight, our environment flipped. Now we live in a world where food is dirt cheap, engineered to be hyper-palatable, and heavily marketed to us. I mean, half the items in your local grocery store are ultra-processed, quite literally designed to hijack those ancient reward centers in our brains. And this brilliantly illustrates how subtle this trap actually is. Most people do not become obese because they massively lack self-control. They just eat a tiny bit too much over a really long period of time. Just a small excess. We're talking the equivalent of eating barely half a Snickers bar over your daily caloric maintenance limit compounds to an extra 10 pounds of fat in just 1 year. That is exactly how the modern food environment slowly but surely stacks the deck against us. Which brings us to a foundational truth of human biology. We really like to think we're in complete conscious control of what we eat, right? But the reality? Your hunger is governed by an entire orchestra of hormones operating completely behind the scenes. And when you carry excess body fat, it throws this whole orchestra completely out of tune. It dysregulates your appetite, creating these intense, persistent thoughts about food, something experts call food noise. You aren't just hungry, your brain is constantly buzzing, just screaming at you to eat. But luckily, even in a totally dysregulated system, there's one specific hormone quietly playing its part, glucagon-like peptide 1, or GLP-1. Here's how its natural chain reaction works. When you eat, your body releases GLP-1. It tells your pancreas to release insulin to manage your blood sugar. It slows down your digestion so food stays in your stomach longer. And finally, it signals your brain that you are full and satisfied. It's an absolutely brilliant system. But naturally, this signal fades away in barely 2 minutes. Let's move to and see how this builds into a modern pharmaceutical breakthrough. Scientists asked a really simple question. What if we made artificial copies of this exact hormone, but we played the song louder and longer? Instead of a natural signal that fades in 2 minutes, these new GLP-1 agonist drugs stay in your bloodstream for up to a week. They dial down your appetite 24/7. It takes dieting from this grueling test of willpower to something that feels, honestly, magically effortless. The food noise finally goes quiet. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of the results. This is totally unprecedented. This isn't your typical fad diet where you lose 3 pounds and just plateau forever. Look at this compounding progression. Patients can lose 10% of their initial body weight in just 3 months. By 6 months, we're looking at 15%. And after a year, patients are regularly losing 20% or more of their body weight. This is a level of weight-melting success that we previously only ever saw with highly invasive bariatric surgery. But get this, the real miracle might actually be what happens beyond the weight loss. These drugs appear to synchronize the entire metabolic orchestra. Treatment cuts the risk of a stroke or a heart attack by 20%. It absolutely crashes the chances of developing diabetes by an astonishing 66%. It reduces sleep apnea, lowers inflammation, improves kidney function, and it might even slow Alzheimer's. And incredibly, because of how it impacts the brain's reward centers, it even seems to reduce cravings for alcohol, nicotine, and opioids. That hints at a massive, massive potential as an anti-addiction medication. Of course, we have to be realistic and look at the full picture here. There are side effects. Because these drugs fundamentally alter your digestion, gastrointestinal issues like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea are quite common, though they're usually fleeting. More severe risks, like pancreatitis or gallbladder disease, do occur, but in well under 5% of users. Still, this is exactly why these are serious medications, not just some casual supplement you pick up at the store. They absolutely require strict medical supervision to manage safely. So the crucial point is the hidden danger of just how fast these drugs actually work. If you take GLP-1s and you don't actively manage your nutrition, it basically turns into an unhealthy crash diet. A steep calorie deficit without effort leads to severe muscle loss. And if you drop weight rapidly without preserving that muscle mass, you drastically increase your risk of falls and rapid aging, especially if you're over 40. The non-negotiable solution here? You absolutely must pair this medication with a high-protein diet and heavy resistance training.
Okay, but what happens if you stop taking the injections? Well, the long-term reality is pretty stark. Without genuine lasting lifestyle changes, the biology just bounces right back. If you look at the data after stopping the drug, while a slim majority manage to keep most of the weight off by adapting their habits, 25% regain a significant chunk of the weight, and 20% regain absolutely all of it. For a lot of patients, managing obesity might mean staying on a maintenance dose of these drugs forever.
Which brings us to the core thesis of this entire explainer. GLP-1 drugs are an astonishing medical breakthrough, yes, but they are not magic wands. They do not do all the hard work for you. Their true fundamental power is that they temporarily remove the crushing pressure of intense hunger and that relentless psychological food noise. They simply buy you a window of time, a quiet window, where you finally have the mental and physical space to build healthier routines and really fix your daily habits. As patents expire and these drugs inevitably become cheaper and universally accessible, we're left staring at a massive societal crossroads. If we can simply inject away the biological consequences of our modern world, is that enough? Or is relying on a lifelong pharmaceutical patch just ignoring the root cause entirely? Should we medicate the population, or must we finally do the really hard work of fixing our broken, ultra-processed food environment? It's a question that will undoubtedly define the future of global health. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.